Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Ma'am Dian Erlina as our lecturer and all of my beloved friends. In this opportunity, we are from Group 7. We are going to explain about attitude to language, vernacular dialects, and educational disadvantage language, culture, and interaction in the classroom. But before that, let us introduce our group member first. My name is Dalvina and my friends are Bella Karista, Fitri Rahmasari, Melanium, and Noka Ramadona. Okay, the first material will be explained by me. Okay, before talk about attitude to language, vernacular dialects, we have to know the meaning of the language attitude and vernacular dialects. Okay, first, what is a language attitude? Okay, let's see. Language attitude are the feelings people have about their own language or the language of others. It is actually language attitude is refers to the reaction to the different language varieties, and there are some characteristic of the language attitude. It is based on the Garfing and Mathiot in 1968 that they said that there are three characteristics of language attitude. The first is language loyalty, the second one is language pride, and the third one is language use. Okay, language loyalty here means that encourage the people of a language to defend their language and if necessary prevent the influence of other language. And then the second one is language pride. Language pride which encourage the people to develop their language and use it as a symbol of identity and community unity. Okay, and then the last characteristic, that is the third one, is language use. Language use is the awareness of the language norms that encourage people to use their language carefully and politely. It is actually a very big factor in influencing action. So we call that language use activities. Okay, and then let's talk about the vernacular dialects. So what is vernacular dialects? Okay, let's see here in our slide. There is the meaning of the vernacular dialects. Okay, vernacular dialects is refers to the non-standard dialect of a certain language and used in everyday life by the common people of a specific population. Or it can also refers to the non-standard dialect is a native dialect or form of speech is the specific people or in a specific region. Okay, for example, here there is also the example of the vernacular dialects. When the people talk of the non-standard English, they are referring to the fact that particular linguistic forms occur more often in the speech of one group than another. The omission of the verb be in the uterine, such as should not hear, the use of multiple negation, and the substitution of the or the in the words such as the and that. That's all the features of the vernacular dialects. Okay, I think that's all about my explanation about the introduction of the language attitude and vernacular dialects. The next explanation will be explained by my friend Noka Ramadona.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Noka Ramadona and I want to continue Delpina's explanation. And here I want to explain about attitude to vernacular forms of English. Standard English is the English that used by educated people with relatively high social status. It is generally referred to as the middle class. So, the middle class children speak standard English, and then the children from another social group don't use the standard English, but they use a vernacular English. When people talk of non-standard English, they are referring to the fact that the particular linguistic forms occur more often in speech of one group than another. And then our speech also expresses and constructs our identity. The next is the reasons that the vernacular forms survive is attitudinal, and everyone increased their use of standard forms as the context became more formal. It means that the middle class children are unlikely to use any vernacular forms at all when they are asked to read aloud. And whereas the children that from a lower socio-economic groups may use the some vernacular forms. And then the use of vernacular form is clearly patterned and systematic, and it is not random and haphazard. Okay, here there is standard forms and vernacular forms. That the number of standard forms is everyone's speech increase in formal context like school and law court, while the vernacular forms increase in relaxed casual context, such as the playground and then at the home. The vernacular forms express the friendliness and relaxed attitudes appropriate in casual context. Okay, the next is three main ways of people have used to collect information on attitude to language. Here there is a social treatment, direct measures, and indirect measures. The social treatment is in sociolinguistics can invert attitudes by observing the way language is used in the public domain. And this is a very unobtrusive method of collecting the data. And a wide variety of material can be used for this purpose. And for example, government's document can provide information on the status of different language. For instance, educational document can give clues about teachers' views about student language, and employment advertisements can indicate which language or varieties of language are favored by employers. The second is direct measures. Indirect measures in sociolinguistics can ask direct questions about people's attitude to particular language or language varieties or even language features. And then the last is indirect measures. A third way of collecting data on language attitude is to use an indirect measure which explicits the respondent's attitude without making them feel self-conscious or feel embarrassed. And the most sophisticated forms of this method is the measured gaze. Okay, I think that's all for me.
Okay, my name is Bella Karista and I will continue the explanation from my friend Snoka. Here I will discuss about educational disadvantages of vernacular dialects which focused on language field. Okay, so here vernacular dialects can lead to miscommunication. Why? Because dialect differences can certainly lead to miscommunication, especially if vernacular dialect users do not hear a great deal of the standard dialect. How it can be this? Because one word can seem to be different if it comes from two different dialects. It can be different in pronunciation or in grammatical form. For example, here African American vernacular English, it has certain phonological, morphological, and syntactic characteristics. Now let's see for more explanation about African American vernacular English. So here, phonetically, words like thing and this may be pronounced as thing and this. And then bath may sound like bath, brother like brother, and nothing like nothing. Okay, so here in African American vernacular English, we can know that several words seems to have different pronunciation if it is compared to standard English. And then the second is in morphology. Of course, in African American vernacular English, words like test, desk, and end may be pronounced without their final consonant. So, because final T and D are often unpronounced, there may be no over signaling of the past tense, so that the sentence I walked sounds just like I walk. Therefore, it will be difficult for us to understand whether it is past tense or present tense. And then the last is syntactically. African American vernacular English has special uses of be or lack of be, or it's also called as zero copula. The rule for its use is really quite simple. For example, if you can contract be in standard English, you can delete it in African American vernacular English. For example, he is nice. He is nice is in the form of standard English, and then we can contract it into he nice in African American vernacular English. So, okay, from this example, only for one dialect, that is African American vernacular English, we can see that there are many differences when it is compared to standard English, for example, phonetically, morphologically, and syntactically. Therefore, it can be concluded that vernacular dialects can create miscommunication or can lead to miscommunication, especially if vernacular dialect users do not hear a great deal of the standard dialect. Okay, I think enough. The next explanation will be presented by my friend. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, here I'm as the presenter. Okay, my name is Melanium. Okay, here I'm going to discuss about the disadvantage of language in culture. Yeah, here. Before we discuss about this, we have to know first, what is it, the culture and language first. So culture and language have its own relationship, so we can expert it because they have their own relationship. Okay, so we have to find its own definition first. Yeah, the culture is defined as the set of the learned behavior, belief, their attitude, value, and idea that are characteristic of a particular society or population. Okay, in culture, okay, there are some different, of course. For example, American culture, Pakistani culture, Indian culture, and Chinese culture. And what about language? Okay, so language here is a system of a symbol with standard meaning. Okay, from our style of verbal expression, so we can use language with verbal and non-verbal language. And also language allow a person communicating with others in meeting their needs. And also language is the key to the heart of the people. Okay, language has three main functions. Okay, the first, from a cultural perspective, it is the primary means of a prosthetic culture and it's the medium transmitting culture to new generation. And the second one, it helps establish and preserve community by linking individual into communicative of shared identity. And the third one, at the society level, okay, it is important to all aspects of the human interaction because it often relates to political goals. Okay, so it has its own political goals in the language. Okay, we go to our second part. Okay, here we have the relationship between the language and culture. Okay, so what are the relationship between the language and culture itself? Okay, so here I will mention you three of it. Okay, the first one is the most significant invention made by culture. Yeah, invention that made by the inventor. Okay, it's often made by the culture, and also the second one, the language is used to learn the culture. Okay, yeah, we need language to learn culture. Okay, and we need culture to learn the language. So we can spread it because it have its own relation in it. Okay, and then the third one, the human culture, okay, can exist without the language. Yeah, okay, our culture cannot exist without the language, and language cannot exist without the culture. Okay, we got the third one. Okay, here we have the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Yeah, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Okay, it is the two American linguists Edward Sapir and Benjamin Whorf. Okay, so it is the expert of the language and culture that we will discuss in this discussion. So Edward Sapir, you can see on the slide. Okay, it is born in Germany and immigrated into the United States in late 19th centuries. And even current during this time include the following: Wright Browse first airplane in 1903, and so on. Okay, and then the most important is Einstein proposed theory of the relativity in 1905. And what about the Benjamin Lee Whorf? Okay, in 1997 until the 1941. Okay, he is a chemical engineer, yeah, and then insurance inspector, okay, and amateur linguist, and both of them, okay, have made a theory about the culture, as we can see in the next slide here. Okay, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. He stated in 1929, he said that human beings do not live in the society alone, okay, and language of the society presupposed certain choice of the interpretation about how we view the world. And the word, okay, in 1930s, also said that we dissect nature along the line laid down by our native language. And then we categorize object in the scheme led by the language, and if we do not subscribe to the classification, we cannot talk or communicate with others. Okay, and the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis consists of two associate principles. Okay, they make two principles, okay, two products in their theory. The first one is linguistic determinism, and then linguistic relativity linguistic. Okay, linguistic relativity, yeah. Okay, what about the determinism? Okay, the determinism, language may determine our thinking pattern, the way we view and think about the world, and linguistic determinism is also called the strong determinism. Okay, and then one well-known example work used to support his theory was the number of the words of the Eskimo language has for snow, example upon, for the snow on the ground, and kanika, hard snow on the ground. Okay, so they have different words for the word snow. Okay, they have the classification again for the word snow. And then also for the Arabian, okay, we know camel as unta, right? But in the Arabian, they have many words, okay, to describe camel, the kind of camel. And also in Chinese, there is only one term, lutong, and in English, there is only camel in it. Okay, we can go to our next slide again. Okay, so the linguistic relativity, okay. If the first one we have talked about the determinism, we will discuss about the linguistic relativity here. The less similarity, okay, the less similar of the language more diverse their conceptualization of the word. Okay, different language view the word differently. Okay, so the different language view, it will make the word differently. And then the second one is linguistic relativity. The first one, speaker different language perceive the word differently. Yeah. Okay, you know that we are so many native speaker, okay? Indonesian native speaker, and then American native speaker, British native speaker. So it will bring a perceive the word differently. And the second one, we have the language influence thinking. Yeah. If we know much about the language, it will influence your thinking as well. And the third one, linguistic difference between culture are associated with culture different in thinking. And the fourth one, viewpoint vary from language to language. Okay, and the fifth one, viewpoint vary. The structure doesn't determine the view, but it's extremely influential in predisposing speaker of a language toward adopting a particular word view. The sixth one here, different language represent different way of thinking about the world around us. And then the word beyond perspective is that translation between one language and other is at a very least problem and sometimes impossible. We have a case here, for example, the Punjabi word here, jot, okay? We don't know the meaning, only the Punjabi people know it, okay? The last one we have, there is closest relationship between language and tongue. Okay, language may not determine the way we think, but it does influence the way we perceive and remember, and it affects the ease with we perform mental tasks. Okay, the last part that I'm going to discuss, okay, it is about the culture effect language in different way. Okay, so what effect culture bring in language in different way? So the first one is the relationship between language and culture is as old as mankind, okay? And then the cycle environment, as I have already told you, like in Eskimo, yeah, they have many different words to say snow, okay? And in Arabian, the word camel, they have a lot of version of camel. And then the social environment, okay, in kinship relationship. Okay, in kinship relationship, we know that word for relation we have a mother, father, okay, and then son, and then grandma, grandfather. But in some case, they also have a different word to say your grandma from your father, okay, your grandma from your mother. That's different word to mention it. And then the media culture, yeah, it often brings so many what we call so many perspective, yeah, to the media culture. In different culture, it will bring also different media culture. Change of the vocabulary, of course, yeah. The vocabulary in Arabian, in the British, always different in the Indian, for example. And then fifth, change it, okay, pronunciation. For example, British and American, okay, leave for the British and elevator for elevator from the American. So it will bring different perspective for the speaker. Okay, so we have to understand it. And then the last one, the same word have different meaning in different culture. Yeah, as I have already mentioned before. Yeah, I hope you understand what I have explained to you. See you on the next presentation. We go to our next presenter.
My name is Fitri Ramasari. Now I will continue the last part of our discussion today. Educational disadvantage is frequently defined in terms which are broad and non-specific. So, in this opportunity, we will discuss about disadvantage of language, especially in interaction in the classroom. Okay, the first disadvantage of language in interaction is the children cannot speak well, and then the children cannot make a good statements. For children who have language deficiencies, when interacting, they will have difficulty to speak well, and then they will have difficulty in making good statements. So, how to solve that problem? As I read the book, to solve that problem are the student must use language all the time, and then the student must doing any fair test of linguistic ability. It means to show them to be as skilled as any other children. Okay, I think that's all from our discussion today. Thank you for great attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.